DweebCast.
Hey everybody, I'm Andy Riesmeyer, and this is DweebCast. Alright, look, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is here to stay, and yes, we're only 3 episodes in, but it seems like it's getting better and better as it goes. So here's what we're gonna do. Every week, we're gonna break down the show. Highlights, lowlights, everything in between. Joining me right now is Jesse Gill, one of our producers here, and he is our resident comic book expert. Right?
That's me.
That's you. So let's get into it.
Okay, let's do it.
Last night's episode, what do you think?
I really liked last night's episode. I thought it was a really good step forward for the show. A lot of character development, a lot of good action, but the action was all very important, and it didn't seem just kind of, I don't know, obligatory. It was really good stuff.
I finally am starting to warm up to Skye. I wasn't a really big fan of her the first episode. Second episode, I was like, okay, you know, but now she's actually has a purpose, and she's doing a lot more than just like saying, I'm here. I'm doing this. Also
very, very obvious really at the beginning that there was going to be kind of this will they, won't they kind of situation with her and Ward.
Who obviously like used to get beat up by his older brothers, who maybe were hoping that they were also supervillains, or maybe one of them is a supervillain. Although I don't blame them, because quite honestly, a lot of the times when I'm watching, I want to beat up.
Yeah, who doesn't want to pound that guy's face in? For real, seriously.
And the thing about the end, you know, as far as like S.H.I.E.L.D. goes and having a purpose of good versus evil, it's like they are not going to be able to handle any of the things that they're capturing. The weapons, you know, GRAVITON? Let's be real.
Well, there's a couple things with that. One, they're supposed to be taking all of these weapons and supposedly shooting them into space. We saw that with the last one, with the 084, the 083, what was it called?
084.
084, yeah. And they shot that up into space. Well, how do they know for sure that they shot that up into space? If I know anything about S.H.I.E.L.D., and let's be honest, I know a few things about S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
They did not shoot that up into space, and they kept that somewhere that Nick Fury can use it on somebody if they ever piss him off in the future. Another really good thing about that episode is you had, you know, Dr. Hall,
right,
who was the bad guy, who we'll get to him in a second, but he was also talking about good and bad and trying to keep these weapons away from S.H.I.E.L.D., and he's not exactly wrong. What was really cool is that Agent Coulson basically agrees with him. He does what he has to do, and he basically takes him down. But he acknowledges the fact that having all these weapons just where S.H.I.E.L.D. can get to them is probably not a great thing.
And in the next week on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., didn't look like we were going to see from GRAVITON anytime soon.
No, but the cool thing is that you see that GRAVITON exists, and that was the coolest part about this episode, is that it was actually
real supervillain.
It was a real supervillain origin story. One thing that I was really concerned about with this show is that it would very easily slide into that whole Smallville thing, where it was just
monster of the week,
a freak of the week, that kind of thing. But so far in the first 3 episodes of this show, we have 3 very different conflicts. You had the guy who was injected with the Extremis thing from Iron Man 3 and got superpowers. The second episode was, you know, this super bomb that was left over from the attack on New York from Avengers. And now this thing is this whole different thing with, you know, the birth of a new supervillain who is still around, who could be brought into play at any time. So what seems to be good, at least in the first 3 episodes, is that the conflicts are starting to be, they're shaking them up.
Let's talk about Coulson and these little hints that he's dropping about his muscle memory issues and all that kind of stuff.
Definitely. Well, obviously, Coulson sums up with Coulson. Everybody's talking about Coulson and how in the hell he's still alive after getting heart-shanked, as Andy put it, in Avengers. Obviously, Tahiti plays into it very, very heavily somehow. After this week's episode, obviously there's going to be clues in every single episode now, but after this week's episode, he talked about his muscle memory. He tried to get that gun handled and get that all right. And he says, my muscle memory must be off. And of course, we've talked about possibly he might be a life model decoy.
Right.
Why don't we just make him a clone? Why isn't he a clone? I think he could possibly just be a clone. I like the idea that there's somewhere in some facility called the Tahiti facility, they've got just rows and rows and rows of Agent Coulson clones. Ooh. So when they lose one, they just pop another one back into service.
And what makes Coulson so special then?
Well,
why?
That's a weird thing. And if you have followed all of these movies, like I have since the beginning, since Iron Man 1 when he first popped up, he just was supposed to be this kind of ancillary character who they just kind of tossed in.
Right.
But
he's a huge deal.
He's a huge deal now. Everybody loves Coulson. I love Coulson. He's a great show, and he's a great part of the show. Yeah. And actually, that was another great thing about this episode, is that it was very much about Agent Coulson, and that's what I really want from this show.
More backstory.
More backstory.
Because it's such an interesting,
and
he's such a movie star among these like CW characters.
Absolutely. And, especially after being in these huge Marvel movies.
Yeah, Clark Gregg. Thank you. And thanks to you, please to repeat. Thanks to you for joining us, everybody. What did you think of last night's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode? Let us know, tweet us, Facebook us, comment below, whatever you want to do. We'll see you next time. I'm Andy Riesmeyer.
And I'm Jesse Gill.
Peace.